Please be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Johnson versus Carr May.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Good day. Mr. Johnson, you say the defendant, Mrs. Carr, has been playing an emotional DNA game with you over her daughter's paternity for the past 18 years. You've brought her to court to finally end this game and prove you are not her daughter's biological father. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Mrs. Carr, you say that Mr. Johnson has been dodging a DNA test and his responsibilities as a father since the day you told him you were pregnant. You claim the only reason he is denying her is because you are married and will no longer sleep with him. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, what upsets you the most about this?
The lies, the up and down roller coaster. 1 minute I'm not her father, the next minute I am. It's been a burden with this paternity, you know.
Ms. Carr, you say this is not true, what he's saying.
Your Honor, Mr. Johnson has always acknowledged my daughter, and he has always attempted to be in her
Your Honor,
life.
that's incorrect. When her daughter was first born, her father came to my house, sat me down on my couch, and said that they had a DNA test with another man, and I was not the father. He was the father.
Take me back to the nature of this relationship. You all used to be boyfriend and girlfriend?
No, ma'am. My uncle married her auntie.
Okay.
And they adopted her. I used to go over their house and help him out, like cutting grass and things of that nature, and I would stay the night, and they would allow us to sleep in the same room. We had sex one time.
Okay.
One time. It was a lot of touchy-feely before, and the one time we had sex, it was, you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Well, do you agree that you had sex with him just one time?
I agree that we had sex on multiple times. We have had sex more
And at
than
some
one
point
time.
you realized you pregnant?
Yes, ma'am. At the time I was young, I was just coming on my menstrual, so this was still new to me. So it was brought to my attention that my menstrual was late or it had not come on when it was supposed to. So I was taken to the doctor and later on determined I was pregnant. I then called Mr. Johnson and told Mr. Johnson that I was pregnant. And Mr. Johnson's response was, I'm going to Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, right, I was moving back to Dayton, Ohio at this particular time. Family members were there. It was an emotional day, but she gave me a call, I'm pregnant. Do you think it's yours? Wait, do I think it's mine? Do you think it's mine is the question. You know what I'm saying?
We never had the conversation about, do you think it's yours? It was just, I'm moving to Ohio. And
Your Honor, I
that was the end
remember
of the
this conversation verbatim. You hear me?
So,
like, this is something I cannot forget. Well, I remember the whole day like it was yesterday, crying and snotting. I told my family member after I got off the phone with Miss Carr, I could have a baby on the way.
Your Honor, nobody else in the family knew about him being a possibility until I had her on the delivery table. That's when I told my mom.
And then once you had the baby, what did you do? Did you call him back and try to
I did not call him. I did not pursue him. I had a boyfriend at the time. And
So
Mr. Johnson was aware of my boyfriend.
Was the father
The
of
whole
the
time.
child.
He
All
Her
right.
dad came to my house and told me they had a DNA test with somebody else. So I moved on with my life. What else am I supposed to do after the head of your household comes to me and tell me
that's not true.
that, you know what I'm saying, y'all got a DNA
That's
with
not
test?
true.
What am I go on.
Okay, so let me understand this. At that time, you had a boyfriend.
I did tell him. I pursued it with him, and it went nowhere.
When you say you pursued it with him,
Right.
what do you
When
mean?
you pursued it with the other guy, what did that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean specifically?
She told him he was the father. That's why they came to my house 2 years later and told me they had a DNA test with
There was
another
no
guy.
DNA test.
So
there
when
was never
you
a DNA
found
test.
out that you were pregnant, you told Mr. Johnson and you told
I
the
did.
boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am. I left that part out. I apologize.
Okay, now this is coming together. So you got the boyfriend and you told both.
I told
Mr.
both.
Johnson said, I'm moving away. So at that point, when the baby was born, you still had your boyfriend, right?
There was no one involved. No one. No one's name went on her
So
birth
how did he
certificate.
get excluded from the equation?
No one was involved. It
And
was
you
just
never
my
did
parents.
a DNA test with the ex-boyfriend?
We had a DNA test within the last 3 years.
Wow.
Me and the other
Wow.
father.
And you did not know this, Mr.
No,
Johnson?
ma'am, I didn't.
Mr. Johnson
ma'am.
has been active in her life periodically.
At one point in time, after her father comes to my house and said that I wasn't the father, I move on with my life. Maybe about 5, 6 years later, I had my first daughter. They see how I'm interacting with her, and so I guess they say, this is your daughter now.
No, this is not true.
Let me tell you, I seen the daughter in a grocery store. She runs up to me. She run up to me, like, Daddy. I'm shocked at the moment, like, wait a minute, Daddy. When I tell you I'm looking for cameras to pop out, I thought I was on a prank show or something. Like,
How old is she?
she's about 5 or 6 at this time.
Your Honor, this is my first time ever hearing this story about the grocery store.
Okay, so let's hear it.
She run up to me like, Daddy, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, okay. Hey, I want to say I'm not your daddy, but I can't tell this little girl this, you know what I'm saying? I recognized the family members, so I just assumed this was
That it was
Miss
her.
May. But I'm confused as to why she's calling me daddy. So I'm asking for a DNA test. Like, no, you can't just say that she's my daughter without me getting a DNA test.
So what happened when you requested the DNA test after the run-in at the grocery store, Mr. Johnson?
It never happened. So about 3 to 4 years later, I move in with a family member that they are close to. And Miss May is constantly interacting with these family members. So she comes to the family member's house and like, your daughter is coming. Like, this is not my daughter.
That is untrue.
Can I finish my story? I said, I need a DNA test.
Cut me
And
off.
all the family like, no, she's yours. You don't need to get a DNA test. And she looked like another family member when she was younger. And so I'm just full of
No, that's not
emotion.
true.
And
Not true.
so against my better judgment, even without the DNA test, I started accepting Miss May as my child. I know that I need to get this DNA test based on what they told me in the past. I'm full-blown father now. Birthday parties, clothes, school clothes. Your Honor, I donated plasma to have Miss May a Hannah Montana birthday party.
How old was Amber at this point?
This was her 9th birthday, her 10th birthday. I'm full-blown father. You
Your
know what I'm saying?
Honor,
I'm
he
full-blown
never
father. I'm
communicated
school
with me
clothes,
about
shoes,
this.
everything.
Gotta talk.
So,
So
maybe
if you're a full-blown father and you're throwing birthday parties, what brings you to court today? You still have a
I
doubt?
got a phone call about a year or 2 later requesting the DNA test.
It's not
Why?
true, Your Honor.
Now, after I'm full-blown father mode, why get a DNA test now? Why not when I
Well,
asked
I want
for
the
one?
answers to both of those questions. Number one, I want the answer to why, after all that time, he's doing birthdays, he's showing up, he's a daddy. Why the
with
DNA?
me. Again, he's not communicating with me, and I always find out about things after the fact.
And so you didn't have any idea all this time that Mr. Johnson had been stepping up and trying to be a father to your daughter?
That is false.
No, man.
At that
He was
point in
not
time, I
stepping
stepped
up
up.
the way he's been.
She had one. He did one birthday party.
Yes,
One.
facts.
How old she is?
Facts.
One.
This is
Okay.
facts. Yes,
You're right.
one birthday. And who are you?
Four.
Okay. I don't even know. I've never seen this man a day in my life. You know what I'm saying?
When
Who
we-
are
All
you?
right,
we was-
you know, there has been a lot of talk about Amber, and I personally am ready to meet her because I want to ask her myself
Yeah.
what
Your
is
Honor.
going on. Jerome, will you please escort Ms. May into the courtroom?
Yes.
Hi, Amber.
Hello, Your Honor.
What memories do you have of Mr. Johnson being in your life?
Memories with Mr. Johnson. My 10th birthday, he threw me a party at the water park. I remember that. And then there was the time from summer after 5th grade. I remember that day because he made me stay in the house while all my cousins playing outside.
There was a lot of boys out there. She was the only girl.
I was not.
And so, when's the last time you saw Mr. Johnson?
Last time I saw Mr. Johnson was the 5th grade summer. It was probably around 2010.
So you have not seen her or laid eyes on her?
No, ma'am, and she's extremely beautiful.
Yes. Ms. May, what was your understanding as it related to your paternity? What were you told?
I was told by family members that he was my father, and they would show me pictures of him, and they was like, oh, you look just like him. And so I was like, okay, that's my dad. And growing up, my mother had told me that he was a part of my life, and so I don't have that many memories with him. Like, there was this time I called him on the phone. I asked for a birthday present. He gave me a false tracking number, and we was all waiting for it. I was like so excited to get the present, and it never came. So I just forgot about it. And
Did you give her a fake tracking number, Mr. Johnson?
I may have, Your Honor. At the time, I probably had got the phone call to take the DNA test, and I told Mrs. Carr that I'm not doing anything else until we get proof that this is my daughter.
We never had that conversation,
Honor,
Your Honor. We had a
What-
conversation when I went through the court system and pursued him for a DNA test
For a
and
DNA
child
test.
support, and he sent me a
This
text
is after-
saying
this is
that
after
it
I
was screwed
stepped-
up that I did that. But this was during the same time as the tracking number and the gift that he had promised her.
So when you requested the DNA test, he never showed up.
No, he did not.
And so at that point, your desire to pursue Mr. Johnson was to collect child support?
I just wanted a DNA test once and for all so that I could quit hearing, I don't know if she's mine, or, you know,
Right.
I didn't
You know
want
what
to
I'm
hear
saying?
that, because one moment you're her father, the next moment you're not. It gets really confusing.
I mean, it is amazing to me how much you all were doing. You did everything but get a DNA test. I mean, everything. And now, Amber is the one who's hurting,
At the end of the day.
thinking you're her biological father, and you only showed up for a birthday party. And I mean, Amber, what was that like?
well, after Mr. Johnson left me, that's when the man I call my father, Mr. Carr over there, that's when he came and stepped up and took his place. And so all these years I was like, okay, so, you know, he doesn't want to spend time with me. And so I recently got in contact with him and over social media and asked, are you going to come to my graduation, or are you going to lie and say you're coming and then not show up?
I have copies of text messages.
Jerome, let me see that, please.
This is not the whole conversation, but it's just the part that really stood out.
She said, what, you don't want to talk to your firstborn that you abandoned?
Because he asked to contact my mother. He has told me to tell my mother to call him.
And so you said, I did abandon you. I take responsibility for my actions, but it's a lot you don't know. And then Amber writes back, well, I'm of age. Please enlighten me, Brandon. And then you say, you may not be my daughter. We were supposed to get a paternity test about 4 or 5 years ago, but your mom never went through with it.
Correct.
And when you reached out, all you wanted was your biological father and the man you know to be your father figure in your life. You wanted them to be at your graduation.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Johnson, if you are her biological father, would you like to go to her graduation?
And gladly, I would love to. It's hard on her. You know what I'm saying? She's the number one being hurt out of this. You know what I'm saying? But I got feelings and emotions tied up in this as well. I done missed out on a lot. They deprived me of the chance of her
That's not true.
falling in love with me for the first time. They deprived me of seeing her first steps.
That's not
they
true,
deprived
Your
me of
Honor.
her first birthday, father-daughter dances. They deprived me of a lot of stuff too.
Your Honor.
You have an opportunity to tell him.
All right.
I felt like you could have got in contact with her. You could have, but you didn't try. And so that doesn't make me feel like you wanted to be with me. Look, it's over with now.
It don't have to be over
It's
with
over
if
with
you're
now.
my daughter. You know what I'm saying? We can build from now forward. You know, we can't ever get back to past. It don't have to be over if you're my daughter, Amber.
We're here to get you the answers, Amber, you deserve and you need, and we have those answers for you. Jerome? These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Johnson versus Carr May, when it comes to Amber May, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Johnson, you are her father.
You knew that the whole time.
Man,
How
go
do you
hug my
feel?
parents.
How do you feel? Absolutely, honey.
Okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
We came here for a beautiful young woman who deserves to know who her biological father is. And now we have that answer.
Yes, we do.
And I am so thankful that you have Mr. Carr in your life, and I'm so happy that your mother has been there for you. Every girl needs her daddy, and you've been blessed with two. You have two men who love you very much, and that's a beautiful thing. Mr. Johnson?
I just want to apologize to Amber first. I'm extremely sorry. I love you. I will be here for you from now on.
I have counseling and resources for all of you because I want you to figure out how to take the next step. And it won't be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
Yes, it will be.
Yes?
Yes, it will.
And I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thank you, Judge.
Court is adjourned.